Hello friends, today I would like to deal with the remaining part of the short story, The Romance of a Busy Broker. It is the second part, that is the second video of the story, The Romance of a Busy Broker. Here, once again, I would like to repeat here the characters in the short story. There are four characters in the short story. First character, Harvey Maxwell, who is a busy broker. Second character, Peter. Peter is a personal clerk in the office of Maxwell. And third character, Miss Leslie. Miss Leslie is Maxwell's secretary. And the last character, a young girl who is an interview. Interview means the person who is going to face an interview. She came in the office to face an interview for the sake of that is secretary job. Now, let us discuss the story in detail, the romance of a busy broker. This is the story of a busy broker, Mr. Harvey Maxwell, and his secretary, Miss Leslie. Now, let us see the character of Miss Leslie in short. In the beginning, we know that Miss Leslie was a very simple lady. She was very beautiful and simple lady, and she had worn a grey colored plain dress, filial, fitted, well her. It was suited to her. She had wear the black hat on head, and that hat had golden feather of a parrot. She had a smiling face, and she was shyly glowing. Her eyes were dreamily bright. Her cheeks were rosy, and she had happy expressions with a touch of some sweet memory. In this, it was the physical description of Miss Leslie, who was a very simple lady. Actually, what happened in the story uh, on the early in the morning uh, when Miss Leslie that she came to the office, Mr. Harvey Maxwell's office, uh, on the same day, this morning, instead of going to her own desk, Miss Leslie she stayed in the outer office for some time. Means she stopped outside the office for some time instead of going to her own desk. Then she asked the clerk teacher whether Mr. Maxwell said anything about appointing a new secretary because he had in her mind whether Maxwell is going to appoint another secretary. So she asked the question to the teacher whether Mr. Maxwell said anything about appointing a new secretary. At that time, teacher told her that he told him to get another secretary, but none had come yet. Means already he told him, but none had come yet. So Miss Leslie thought it would be better to continue her work. It would be better to continue her work till the replacement. So she thought that she would start with her work till the replacement happens. Replacement in the sense, in place of Miss Leslie, there will be the appointment of another secretary. But she thought that it would be better to continue her work. Mr. Maxwell, the busiest broker in New York, who is always busy. Then this was the day of Mr. Maxwell. It was the busiest day. He was extremely busy with his work. And suddenly, the clerk teacher came with a young girl. At that time, the clerk told Maxwell, the teacher told Maxwell, what he told? He told that the lady has come for secretary job. But here, when the information given by teacher regarding the lady who came for the secretary job, at that time, Mr. Maxwell became surprised as he could not remember, he could not recall when he had asked for such replacement. He didn't remember when he told teacher to find out another secretary to have the replacement of the secretary. He didn't remember. So immediately he took the decision and he ordered the clerk, Mr. Teacher, not to replace Miss Leslie with anyone. He told immediately. Don't replace Miss Leslie with anyone. He gave the order to the clerk, Mr. Teacher. Then Mr. Teacher, he was unable to comprehend. Comprehend means understand. He did not understand. He was unable to understand what was happening because on the earlier day, Maxwell told teacher to get another secretary in place of Miss Leslie. Now today, when he brought one young lady, immediately told that he didn't remember, he didn't call. So don't replace Miss Leslie. So he told, Maxwell told Mr. Teacher that he did not need another secretary. He did not need another secretary because he is very happy and satisfied with the present secretary, Miss Leslie. And he told that he is happy with Leslie's work since a year. So he did not need another secretary. Here, the young lady heard that. She listened and she left a little angrily. She left the office angrily, and teacher thought that Mr. Maxwell is getting more absent-minded person because of this incident that took place with the clerk, Mr. Teacher, that Mr. Uh, Maxwell told the clerk teacher that to get another secretary, to have the replacement of the secretary in place of Miss Leslie. Now, when he brought that young lady for the secretary job, he took, he didn't remember, Maxwell didn't remember, and he told that need, he did not need another secretary. So teacher thought that Mr. Maxwell is getting more absent-minded person. Here we know that Mr. Maxwell went very busy with his stocks, bonds, loans, shares, and securities. In this way, he was very busy person. And this was the world of finance. Always he was busy, which we can call the world of finance. And there was no place in it for the human world of nature. He had no time to pay his attention towards his personal life because he was always busy in the world of finance. Now it's time for lunch. Now there was a slight pause in the uproar. When there was commotion, when there was uproar, there was a slight pause, and it's a time of lunch. Then Mr. Maxwell immediately he stood up with a full of telegrams and had letters with fountain pen hanging over his right ear. And at that time, there is a description of his hair. He had untidy hair which were hanging over his forehead. Because such kind of a person that seems quite busy. That is the description of Mr. Maxwell. Then there was a sweet smell, fragrance of lilac that came through his window, and that fragrance belonged to Miss Leslie. Do you know what happened at the end of the story? At that time, Mr. Maxwell forgot. What he forgot? He forgot the world of finance for a moment. When, when there was a fragrance that the sweet smell that came through the window, at that time, Mr. Maxwell forgot the world of finance for a moment. Then Miss Leslie sees in the next room, and Mr. Maxwell took his decision to propose Miss Leslie. And she went in her room. At that time, Miss Leslie looked at up. She looked him up with a smile. Then Mr. Maxwell hurriedly immediately asked Miss Leslie. What he asked, listen carefully. He proposed, Miss Leslie. Miss Leslie, I have only a moment to spare. Miss Leslie, I have a moment to spare. I want to say something in a moment. Will you be my wife? Will you be my wife? I haven't had time to show my love to you in the ordinary way, but I really do love you. Talk, quick please. I am very busy. See, in what way he proposed Miss Leslie? See, once again, I would like to repeat the purpose, that is Mr. Maxwell. In what way he proposed Miss Leslie? Listen, Miss Leslie, I have only a moment to spare, to spend. I want to say something in a moment. Will you be my wife? I haven't had time to show my love to you in the ordinary way, but I really do love you. Talk quick, please. I am very busy. After listening these words, this proposal, Miss Leslie was surprised and she was confused. She didn't understand what happened with Mr. Maxwell. Then Miss Leslie could not control her tears. That tears came through her eyes. She could not control her eyes. Then she showed pity towards him. She pitied that Mr. Maxwell was so overworked that he had forgotten the previous evening. He had forgotten what happened the previous evening because of his overwork. Then she smiled cheerfully and softly Miss Leslie said, what she said? I know now. I know now. It is this old business that has driven everything else out of your head for time. I was frightened at first. Actually, first of all, she was frightened, but laterwards she understood why he became absent-minded person because of his overwork, because of his busy work. Always he was a busy person. Then she asked a question. Don't you remember Harvey? Don't you remember Harvey? We were married last evening at 8 o'clock in the little church around the corner. Don't you remember? Already we were married last evening at 8 o'clock in the church around the corner. And end of the story is very interesting because it reflects the extreme case. What is the extreme case? The extreme case of the forgetfulness of Mr. Maxwell. In what way? He has forgotten that he had already married with Miss Leslie. In this way, we have discussed here the short story that is the romance of a busy broker.